Hello, everyone. I'm coming on here to talk about something that someone had requested. I am Michelle Perda, life and marriage coach for moms, and I help moms love their life and marriage again. All right, so here's the situation we have here. The member said that her mother-in-law, who visits every 2 months, is too strict and sometimes mean to the kids. She leaves, and then there's almost always hurt feelings. They have tried addressing it with her, but she doesn't see what she does. And because of that, they've decided not to let her spend time with the kids. If this is you and you're in a very similar position, a heart-to-heart conversation needs to happen. It needs to happen. On top of that, you need to spend time with your husband, getting really clear on what it is that you desire out of this situation. So, do you want them to have a better relationship? Do you want them to have a relationship at all? This is something that needs to be decided between you two as partners. And keeping in mind that this is his mom. You're talking about his mom. And although he may understand where you're coming from and understand the importance of what influences you allow into your bubble of or your village of raising your kids, you're still talking about his mom. So this is a sensitive topic. And I'm certain you don't want to create drama with your husband, so tread lightly, okay? When talking about it with him, I would urge you to spend time on your own to suss out exactly what you want out of the situation. Do you want them to have a better relationship? Do you want them completely out of their life? Do you want limited contact? Do you want the contact to be done in a certain with certain conditions present? So first, be clear on what it is that you want. Okay, so once you've decided what you want, then it's time to talk to your husband to talk about how you're going to handle it going forward. Is this something that requires a heart-to-heart conversation with your mother-in-law together with you two, or maybe even your husband by himself, depending on your relationship with her? Is this more so something that you establish as a plan on how to navigate if you decide you don't want her in their life? Or if you decide that you want limited contact under certain conditions, right? So all of this needs to be sussed out and come up with a unified message to communicate. So if this happens, what do we say? What are we okay with? What do we stand for? And set those healthy boundaries. Now, if you're in a situation where you do want to encourage a better, healthier relationship, one that is more in line with your style of parenting, then more work needs to go into it. Okay, so taking the time again to get really clear on what your end goal is. So the end goal is for the kids to have a good relationship with their grandmother, to not feel like all she is doing is, I'm assuming, criticizing and nitpicking. Okay, and essentially creating an environment where they don't feel comfortable, they feel judged, and they don't feel loved, right? And that is exactly what we want to create for our children, an environment full of love, so that they can thrive. Okay, so ask yourself, what do you want it to be like? What kind of dynamic do you want the kids to have with their grandmother? And how is it right now? So if point A is how things are right now and point B is how things you want it to be, establish where the gaps are so that you know what you're heading towards, what changes needs to happen, and then start to take baby steps towards it. Okay, what do you think your concerns are if she continues to spend time with the kids the way that she's spending it? What is your deep fear or fears around this? This is good to know and good to communicate with your husband, because that's where you're coming from. This is what's driving your concern, your desire for something different. So let that out into let that out and share that with your husband, and think about what you think your mother-in-law or whoever it is that's strict in this situation for you is trying to communicate when she's being strict or when she's being mean. What do you think she's trying to accomplish? What do you think her concerns are that are causing her to choose to say something or do something? What is motivating her? What is triggering her to show up like this? And then let's take a step further, right? Let's go deeper. How was she raised? How was she as a mother to your husband? It's very possible she is the way she is because of how she was raised. That is why my mom is the way she is. Her grandma raised her because her mom passed away shortly after they came to the States from Hong Kong. And so her grandma, who was a refugee in China, was strict as hell. So by comparison, my mom is not strict at all. But comparing how my husband and I want to be and how she is very strict. Okay, so let's inject some compassion here and understand that she's not doing it to destroy your children. She's doing it because that's all she knows. She probably 90% has good intent. She's probably trying to shape them up to be what she thinks is required to be a kind, respectable, grown person. And so she's probably coming from a place of, well, I was criticized for this, or if I did that growing up, I would have gotten spanked, or someone thought poorly of me because I used to do that, and so I'll be damned if I let them do that because I don't want anyone to criticize them. Not knowing that she's actually doing what she's trying to avoid other people doing to them. Okay? So try and understand where she's coming from. Try and understand what do you think she's trying to accomplish and what's motivating her to show up this way as a grandparent. And consider how you want her to show up instead, with the caveat of knowing that you're the only person you can control. It is not guaranteed that she's going to end up how you want her to, but it's important for you to do the work to understand what is it that you're looking for it to change into, okay? Because telling her you're too strict and you're too mean may not mean anything to her, because she may look at it like, well, I'm a hell of a lot less strict than my mom, or I'm a hell of a lot less strict than my grandma, so I have zero clue what you're talking about. And she may even be thinking that you are not strict enough based on where she's coming from, her background, right? Her baggage, her triggers. So consider what it is that you want her to do instead, and what is motivating you to desire that for your children. And it is that answer that should drive the entire conversation that you have with her. That should drive the heart-to-heart conversation that you have with her, not so that it's full of criticism and blame, which will send her into be defensive or shut down or think poorly of herself even more, right? Or start to criticize you. Instead, come from a place of, I want you to have a really loving, fun relationship with our kids. I want them to want to hang out with you. I want them to know that you're a safe place. And even go as far as to ask, what type of relationship do you want with the kids? So that you can start to co-create ways to have that dynamic shift little by little, because it takes time for change to happen, right? Like, she's been this way for a while now. It's not like she just decided one day she's going to be like this. It happened a while ago, and she's just being who she knows to be. And so we need to start making subtle shifts to encourage that type of behavior, the shift that you're desiring. But first, she needs to know where she's going, right? Where does she want to go? Does she want a better relationship with them? Does she want to have the intention of being that loving, fun grandma, right? If she can attach to that goal, she may start to bring more awareness to herself in situations where she's triggered. So speaking of triggers, it may also be helpful, since she said she's not aware of her doing this, if you ask her if she's open to you guys lovingly pointing it out when it happens, away from the kids though. You don't want to throw her under the bus, okay? Or if you want to do it in front of the kids, have it be very, very subtle. The thing I am thinking of right now is a bat signal, but something like very neutral that the kids won't pick up on. Like maybe you tap your shoulder or tap her shoulder. Maybe you scratch your nose, something super subtle and neutral, so that she's like, oh, okay, I'm doing it. And it's not so much you saying, there you go again, you're doing it. Can you stop? That's a lot more abrasive and critical. Whereas all you're trying to do is open up her awareness to when she's doing it, and maybe she can stop and think about, I wonder why I said it that way. How could I do it differently next time? Or how can I correct this situation on her own terms, right? You don't want to come in and essentially undermine her, because she's still a person of, I don't want to say authority, but of influence over the kids. And I know that if I were doing something that my kids' grandparents didn't approve of, I would not like them to call me out in front of them, which I have experienced. But I worked through that with my mother-in-law. So that's a sort of boundary that needs to be created, right? Boundary between her and you guys, because you guys are on the upper hand where you're pointing out something that she's doing that isn't working, right? So it's never easy to be on the receiving end of criticism, even if it's from a place of love. It's never, ever, ever easy. And what's even harder is to actively change, right? It's hard to do something outside of your norm. It's not impossible, right? It's not impossible. That's the whole reason why coaching exists, is so they can help. So coaches can help you make that more possible and do it faster. But it still takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of awareness, humility. And so if she's open to it, that could be a way for you guys to support her through this, if she desires to change the dynamic, okay? Now, when you're doing this, when you're having this discussion though, anchor in to the intention that you have, right? Okay, the goal is for them to have a healthier relationship where they feel happy when she leaves, right? not from a place of how do we fix her. Because if you go into the conversation with the premise of how do we fix her, that's not going to feel good. It's not going to be an empowering conversation. It's going to be one where she leaves feeling pretty crappy. And that's not what you want, right? This is you saying, I want you to have a better relationship with them. How can we help you do that? It's not that we don't want you to have a relationship with them. It's that the way things are right now, it's not working. What can we do to help change that? Okay. Now, if you are still choosing to go down the route of, nope, I think I'd rather cut back on the hanging out, right? Maybe you start out doing that and take baby steps towards changing that. Then I would recommend hanging out in small chunks of time, right? So then you can think about, okay, in what situations are we okay with hanging out with her? And then you would think about scenarios where it would be low stress scenarios that won't encourage behaviors from your children that trigger her and provoke her to do or say whatever it is that you are not okay with. Okay. And then, of course, if she's open to it, catching her in the moment or catching your kids in the moment when you know she's about to say something like, ooh, that looks like something that she's not okay with, and she's gonna be in that position where she can't help herself but say something, go in right away. Like, essentially, take the preventative measure of jumping into the situation before it becomes a situation where you need to intervene. Okay. So then you can be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, that's not okay. This is how we're going to do this instead, whatever, to your kids. Now, if you don't catch it first and she gets in there first, you can kindly just say, okay, we got it from here. Thank you. And then deal with the situation in a way that you're okay with dealing with it. And then afterwards, once the kids are away, you can unpack the situation with her if you choose to. Like, hey, what was it that happened that led you to want to do that? Or what about that event? What about that situation upset you? What were your concerns, right? And try and lead her into a space where she can divulge what her fears were, what her concerns were, what her goals were, so that you can find a way to come up with replacement reactions, because she may be missing the tools that you have, that you speak out, and you talking it out with her about, okay, yeah, I think next time maybe we can handle it this way. That will start to get her mind working, if she's open to it, to different ways to go about approaching the same issue. Okay. I think that's all I got. I'm just looking at my notes right now. That's all I got. If you have any questions, please type away so I can help you out. Same goes for those who are catching the replay as well. But other than that, getting clarity on yourself with your partner, staying true to what your intent is, and walking that fine line of not causing more issues and not causing more disconnect in the family, and empowering her, letting her know, like, I get it, like acknowledging her, and this is my intent of bringing up this conversation, and let's get through this together. I hope you guys are having an amazing, amazing week and day, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.